You guys have anything to add? Not to O Senior, but to this part of the process? I mean, like, when you guys come in and you're, like, Matt, today you set up most of your rig. I mean, so you're helping to patch, you're pitching in, but in terms of your gear, you know, you've got you got a lot of stuff going on there. So you've got to know, there's a preparation side on your end that goes too, you know, cabling and tidiness and those kind of things.
Setting it all up at home during the week, especially if you keyboard players are the worst for, I want to add this new gizmo to my rig this week, and man, I just called up Sweetwater and they just sent me this fiery red awesome thing that I've got to get plugged in, and they show up at church with that thing and they haven't plugged it in yet. They're unwrapping it, and I'm talking I've actually done this tons when I was younger, but spend the time at home, master that little gizmo. It could be awesome, but don't come in full with it in church. Don't come in full with it in rehearsal, you know. Take the time to run all your cables, get everything set up, and then when you show up, it's going to go smoothly. And that just goes along with everything we've been talking about. We don't have a lot of time. We got to make the most of it. Anyway, that's a thought.
Yeah. Daniel?
Oh, you about to say?
No.
I was going to say, if you just kind of maybe read the room a little. Like if you got one guy that's kind of running around patching the cables, like I'm speaking to the musicians, I guess. If you got one guy that's like maybe one monitor guy or one volunteer kind of running patch cable, you know, if you can't figure out why your guitar doesn't sound right in your ears, maybe instead of yelling like, "Hey, it doesn't sound right," you know, like maybe do a little bit of troubleshooting on your own. Like walk back to your amp, you know, learn how to place your mics. You know, see if the mic cable's not plugged in. Make sure the mic stand hasn't fallen down and the mic's aiming at the floor. You know, simple things that you could fix that you don't have to use up his time or her time. As they're patching the stage, you don't have to like waste anyone's time. You can like, you know, especially if like once the worship leader arrives, like a lot of times once Chris is dialing in his ears or Todd or Christy, like I'm kind of done asking for changes. Like by the time they're getting to their ears, I need to kind of be happy with what I've got and let them get dialed in, because, you know, ultimately I want them to feel like they got their mix dialed in more than what I need, you know, the things I need. You know, you click track and Chris's vocal or Todd's vocal, Christy vocal, whoever, you know, you get your couple of things in your mix and then, you know, let them get happy as well, because it's not all about you. But I think a little bit of troubleshooting on your own, learn how to make sure there's not an air gap in your mic signal, make sure you got your, you know, put the mic where you want it on the speaker and all that kind of stuff.
I like it.
Yeah. Christy. You don't have to raise your hand.
Well, I would say because a lot of you raised your hands, you're singers, what you just witnessed is not normal on my part. I will say this. So because of that, everything that you keep hearing, read the room is so important. What Jeff said, later call time for singers is so important. Or you as a singer, if you're kind of the head of that, you're over in another room, just like Jeff said. That's just, I've learned that over years of hurry up and wait. Sitting on the stage, and you know, even just as Jeff said about a guitar player, it's just as important as a singer that you're not doing vocal runs the whole time while everyone is trying to, you know, get drum sounds. And so it is so important in its order, right? That's what it brings beauty even to something that, you know, is technical, but order is beauty. And so I will say, beforehand, obviously, I had my ears dialed in more than, I just stepped up here and I didn't do anything to my monitor. So don't be discouraged, all you singers that are like, oh my gosh, she just stepped up and sang. But, you know, I do recommend, too, maybe there's a time that you could spend just with singers if you're a monitor engineer. Like maybe you have just a weeknight once a quarter that you're just helping your singers get their ears dialed in, because often they don't even know what to ask for. I've had to learn over like 10 years, honestly, to know even what I want in my ear monitors. And so what you just saw me do just then was once I feel like I have that dialed in, of course, when we're on tour, it's usually just so dialed in by then, you know, night after night, everything's dialed in. But at the same time, I wanted to hear Todd sing first. So if you notice, I let him sing first. I want to hear how Todd sounds in my ears first. I actually like in my mix for it to sound like to emulate what's happening in the house. So I want Todd's vocal sometimes just as loud as mine, or Chris's vocal just as loud, if not even a little bit more. If I'm singing parts with Chris the whole time, like I kind of want in my ears for it to emulate the house. So I'm a little bit tucked under as doing harmonies. And then I also like for Todd to be able to sing for a second without hearing me. And so often I do that because a lot of times I'll check first, and then main worship leader comes in. Often they have set list on their mind, or they're in deep thought, and so I try to give them a second, like without doing runs and singing, give them a second for them to hear their own voice, and then I'll chime in and start singing, and then I try to sing like I'm gonna sing. I know I don't always do that, but it's really important because often you'll get adrenaline when church starts, and then you're super loud, or like it changes, and so try in rehearsal to sing how you're gonna sing as loud as you think you're gonna sing. So those are just some thoughts.
That's great.